Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten. I'm an executive recruiter, director of recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. Remind me to tell you about a conversation that I had today that really kind of reminded me of why I do this job, because it was just absolutely amazing. But for now, you know I love to bring thought leaders, and this one's going to be a little different, so get ready. I'd like to welcome Lloyd Banks, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and master in the art of quitting. Yep, that's what I said. Lloyd spent 2 decades building, managing, and selling successful restaurants, nightclubs, and bars in Texas. When he came to the realization, he just wasn't happy. So his experiences taught him that to live a truly meaningful life, he'd have to master the art of quitting. So today his mission is to inspire others to find fulfillment and eliminate non-essentials from their lives. I cannot wait to talk about this. So thank you for joining us today, Lloyd.
Yeah, so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You know, this has been, I love that when I have these topics, they're usually because they are so important to me.
Yeah.
And it's just very timely that we're having this conversation. But before we dive into it, let's talk about how we got connected, because I try to stress in every episode the importance of networking, and truly how we met was a consequence of networking.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Gabe Abshire, my old buddy from UNT, and I always am telling him, like, I'm trying to meet more people and do more things and get my message out to more people. And he said, I know the perfect person you should meet. And hence the introduction.
And it was such an odd introduction, kind of, because when you think about it, I'm not helping people quit.
Right.
I'm helping people find jobs.
Right.
But that's not what we're talking about today.
No.
Completely different from that.
Yeah.
And I do want to share with you, I mentioned that I got a call today.
Yeah.
And this is really what makes me love doing my job, because I usually when I get a call from somebody I've placed at a company, it's like, get me out of here, you know, because otherwise people forget about their recruiters. Right. And today this young lady left me a message, and I placed her at a company right out of college. And it was like 2 years ago. Yeah. And she calls me and she goes, hey, I just wanted to touch base with you. You placed me here at this company, you know, give me a call back. And I'm thinking, oh God, you know, please, I'm never setting out to ruin somebody's life by placing them in a job. Yep. And I really felt like that was a good placement for her to start her career. Well, she called me, she says, no, I have exciting news. And I said, what is it? And she goes, I just got promoted.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it's her second promotion since she's been there in 2 years. And she got promoted to an associate, which is basically their title for associate is basically a manager.
Yeah.
2 years.
So, see, you did your job
I
perfect.
did. And that's what she said. She goes, I just want you to know you changed my life.
That's amazing.
I know. I was like, I'm going to cry.
Yes. So great.
And she didn't quit.
Yes. Good for her. Yes.
So I love those kind of conversations, and I love being able to help people. And I think what you're doing is also helping people. And I think it's so important, and I'm going to share with you some stuff that my coach said. But before I share that, tell us about you and your journey, and who are you and why do you quit?
Well, that's a good question. My wife would ask, please answer that. But no, I did. I graduated college, and I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the funds. And so I spent some time just kicking around trying to figure out how to raise some money. And then when I was 25, I bought my first nightclub and bar and live music venue.
That's young.
Yeah, and you're too young and dumb to own a nightclub at that age,
especially with a liquor license.
Way too many distractions at that point, and I still thought I was in college, and sometimes I acted like it. So, but it led me on this path to buying one nightclub and bar, and then I bought another bar, and at one point I owned 5 different bars at the same time in 2 different cities, and And it was great until it wasn't. And, and then I got into restaurants, which is probably the dumbest idea I've ever had, and I've had plenty of dumb ideas. Yeah. And just so much work, and nobody's ever happy. And so anyway, a few years ago, when I was trying to get rid of my last restaurant, I was just miserable, and I was in this entrepreneur group, and one of my buddies said, man, you're miserable. You should become a speaker. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And so he introduced me to this lovely place called Heroic Public Speaking in Lambertville, New Jersey, and wrote my keynote speech, and then just kind of started doing it. And I realized, I've been kind of a selfish jerk most of my life. This was finally the opportunity I had to help others learn from all my experiences, and hopefully try to change the world a little bit at a time, and just do better. Just do better.
I think we all want to do better.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, actually, there's probably some people out there that don't, but I mean, and that's why I'm on kind of like this journey. I published a journal last year called Awaken Your Potential. Right. Because I think there are those people that just get into that autopilot mode and don't necessarily want to do bad, but they're okay just doing this. And that's okay, I guess.
Yep. I mean, to each their own, but I feel like the world is at a crucial tipping point, and I feel like everybody's got to try a little bit harder, just do a little bit better every day. Just a little.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not be perfect, just do a little better.
All right, so you talk about quitting, and you've kind of hashtagged that term and made it your own, owned it, but you don't use it in a negative way.
Not at all.
So tell us what that looks like in a positive framework.
For sure. First off, rarely ever do I tell anyone to quit their jobs. That's not what I go preach, and people would not appreciate if I came to speak to their audience and told everyone in the audience to quit their jobs. That would not go over well. No, normally what I'm telling people is quit their bad behaviors or mindsets or toxic relationships or whatever it is for them that's holding them back. And I think quitting gets such a bad rap because, like many things, when you talk about quitting, it's all about context, and so I bring up this point in my keynote. I like to say, legendary coach Vince Lombardi had that famous quote, "Quitters never win and winners never quit." Well, what if that was his opening line at an AA meeting?
Oh.
It wouldn't go over so well, right?
Not so well.
Yeah. So it's all about context. And so again, I don't tell people to quit their jobs. I try to get them to quit the things that are holding them back and keeping them from finding their happiness and their harmony.
I recently engaged with a new coach, and the reason I engaged with this coach is because we were having a conversation at a meeting, and he said he makes it his mission to go on vacation every 90 days. And I popped off, and I was like, and he's retired military, but he still has a career after the military. Right. And I was like, I haven't had a vacation in 2 years, Right. And after the meeting, he's like, I'm really concerned about what you said, Casey. I'd like to coach you around this because I think it's a time management issue. And I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
New coach.
Yep.
Well, come to find out, it's not a time management issue. It's a saying yes issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had to actually let go of one of the things that I was doing. And it was really, I had to quit something. And I'm not a quitter. Competition's my number one strength.
You're not, but you know what you are? You're like that wonderful person who wants to help everybody, and you say yes a lot.
I say yes way too much.
Yes. And so again, that's one of the things that I talk about, and I do coaching as well. And so that's one of the things that I talk a lot about with clients is it's hard for some people to say no, and most people to say no. And sometimes you just have to. I mean, trust me, I get calls from some of my best friends sometimes now that want to hang out and do this or do that, and I have to I used to try to find this really polite way or lie. And then I just got to a point now where I'm just like, no, I don't feel like doing that. I'm going to sit home on my couch with my wife and kids and watch a movie tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds better.
I love that. Yeah. And that's one of the things too, because I'm like you, I don't want to lie about it, and so, but you want to find an excuse so you don't hurt their feelings.
Yeah, of course.
But now I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
I have a framework for saying yes. Yep. And if it doesn't fit in that framework, the answer is no.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the only way I'm going to say. And I've just started doing this, so sanity is not quite back yet.
No,
but I'm working on it.
And you get there. I promise you. It's just like anything. The more you practice, the better it gets.
Yes.
And then you'll be shocked at, oh my God, I actually have some time in the day. Or maybe I could go on vacation, or who knows.
Yeah. One other thing that I have done though, because this is at the guidance of my coach, which I think everybody should have a coach.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that you coach because I think it's so important what you're teaching people. But he was like, block your vacation right now. Do it. And so in November, just so everybody knows, in November, I have a week blocked off and I'm protecting that time. And I'm going, I don't know where I'm going yet, but I'm going somewhere.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. I don't care if you go out, sit out back for a week. Yeah. Just
it's so important to do self-care.
You have to. Like the world is more stressful now than ever.
Yep.
Work is more stressful. Time is hard to come by. And so, and life is short. We all know that.
Yes.
But yet we don't take the time to enjoy it. And, another thing I try to talk to people about is just, again, sometimes just live here, live right now. Like even if we're just sitting here and we don't say a word, just enjoy the moment. There's a sunny day outside. It's nice outside. Let's just enjoy.
And we're inside in the cool.
Yes, exactly. We have air conditioning. So but people rush around too much. And you need to slow down. It's important.
And I agree with that 100%, being present, being in the now. And, one of the things that I do each morning is I have a meditation practice. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's really hard to make myself sit down and give myself that time because I'm like, I need to go do the dishes. I need to go that I didn't do last night. I need to, do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, you need to sit down. You need to take some time for your inner landscape. Yep. Make sure you pull the weeds so that you can go out and serve the people that you serve.
Yeah, I found a morning routine, and it changes every once in a while. Mm-hmm. I find things that work better, but a while back, once I finally got this morning routine, I realized how incredibly valuable it was for me.
Yeah.
And then days, if I didn't do it,
doesn't feel right, does it?
My whole day was screwed up.
Yeah.
And so now I do it, and it's great, and I wake up a little earlier than everyone else in my house, so I can, and I don't bother anybody, and they don't bother me. And the day goes better just because of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's actually one of the questions I usually ask at the end of the interview is what is one thing you do each day to set your day up for success? Mm-hmm. But since you've already brought it up, so what does your morning ritual look like?
It's really simple. So the first thing I do is get up, and I'm a praying type. So I get up, and the first thing I do is pray, and I pray for my family, my friends, for world peace, whatever it needs to be that day. And then I move on and I go have coffee because that also is probably the second most important part of my day. If I don't have coffee, things are not right in the world. And then I move on and then I'll finally, after about 30 minutes, I'll finally be willing to touch my phone.
Good for you.
I'll plow through some emails. Anything I can get done really quick, I'll plow through. The other stuff I set aside. And then I spend about 5 minutes kind of planning my day.
Okay.
There's already things that may be on the calendar, but those times that are open, I go, okay, like we're going to do this here, this there, this there.
Yep.
And then I don't negotiate. That's my day. That's how I'm doing it. And I say I don't negotiate it. It happens sometimes. If your kid runs in the room and says, Dad, let's go get ice cream, sometimes you just go get ice cream. But I try not to be negotiable with it. And then that way it just makes the day run smoother and it's my plan and I stick to it.
And I love that you said that you don't negotiate, but sometimes you do because I'm one of those people. I also, so I not only look at my calendar, I actually write down my schedule in the morning because, the power of writing things down is so important. But I also know once I write it down, it has to get done.
Yeah.
And that includes working out.
Yep.
So I'm like, do I really want to put this on the calendar today,
Yep. That's another, 4 days a week, I go work out and same thing, non-negotiable. If they change it, whatever, because I do like this outdoor boot camp thing that's crazy and it's outdoors and it's really hot right now. So sometimes there's trainers out of town and I'm like, okay, well, they're out of town, so I got to go find another one, but it has to happen.
That is so, and once you get into that mindset and that habit of, making sure those things happen, it just becomes natural. And then it's like your body has to have it.
Yeah. If I don't do it, the rest of the day is weird.
Yeah.
Everything's weird after that. Like I didn't do that and now I feel strange and I feel like I've failed myself in some sort of weird way.
I had one of those days today and it doesn't happen very often, but I slept up. So like I have time for my morning ritual and then I have time when I know I've got to start getting ready at this point in order to get to work on time because I was in the office today and I slept until the time that I had to get ready. Right. And I was just like, I don't get to journal today. Nope. I don't get to meditate today. Yeah. And it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, it changes your whole day.
It does.
And I used to not be a routine guy at all, and now I am all routine all the time. I mean, if I'm out of my routine, if anyone bothers my routine, they know how it goes in my house. If you bother my routine, there's going to be repercussions. And that might just be that Dad's in a really weird mood right now. Like, no, Dad just didn't get to do what he was supposed to do, and now he's all thrown off.
That I totally get that. We could talk about morning routines all day because I love them. But I wanted to talk about something that you say a lot, and I want to make sure that I quote you correctly. So you believe to move ahead, you have to leave something behind.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this a little bit. How did you reach this belief, and what does this mean to you?
Some of it goes to time, like we've talked about. Some of it goes to routine, things like that. But I just feel like, in one sense, we all get to a max capacity. And so if you tell me I'm going to say yes again to something else, well, I got to say no to something.
Yep.
Because there's only so many hours of the day, and there's only one me. And so at some point, if I'm going to carry on, and if I'm going to try this, then I got to let go of that. And so some of it's a time thing, but some of it's a capacity thing. And it's just a look, we can only do so much. And so
I don't believe that.
Yeah, well, and
No,
I used
I'm kidding.
to not.
I do believe that.
And I used to not either, and that's why I was probably so miserable for so many years. I worked so many hours. I missed so much of my life because I was working 70, 80 hours a week. My relationships were awful. Everything in my life was pretty miserable because of that. And so I just think if you're going to carry on and you're going to keep moving farther down the road than you are now, if you're going to take on something new, you got to let go of something. And it could work in a million different ways, and it could be physical, mental, spiritual. It could be all kinds of things. But I just think we're all held to a max capacity, and we're not getting beyond that.
So I, each quarter, set up new habits. And sometimes they may be the same habit if I haven't conquered them yet, but I always want to do habits. And I think I realized this quarter I set too many new habits.
Right.
Because so the way I track it, I have like a 90-day tracker, and I have like X nailed it, 0 missed, or maybe a half X if you almost made it. Yeah. I count almost as wins sometimes. But I was noticing the other day, I'm a month into this quarter in my journal, and there's a lot of O's. There's a lot of O's. Yeah. And, and that was one of the things that my coach he asked me the other day, he goes, what's one thing you're going to let go of? And I'm like, nothing.
How could I? Yeah.
But I think I really need to embrace this concept of leaving something behind.
And I'm not saying you are, but too many people, and again, I'll go back to me because I did this. I used to always equate busyness with success. And so if I was busy, I must be successful because look at me, I'm working 80 hours a week. I must be successful.
Yep.
Even if my bank account's great and all that, whatever, but was I? Because when I finally, years after doing that and doing it for too long, and I realized how miserable I actually was, what am I doing? What are we doing? And so why am I so busy? And how many of these things that I'm busy doing every day really mean something? Did I need to have a 2-hour meeting with my staff that day? Or could that meeting have probably happened in 30 minutes, maybe even less? Like, what are we doing? What am I doing? I'm leading this circus. Like, what's happening here? Why are you doing this? And so, at some point, it just, you have to start to realize, like, are all these things I'm doing getting me to the goals that I'm really trying to reach? Or are they just keeping me busy? Like, what am I accomplishing by doing this? Am I really getting anywhere? And then you have to also reevaluate, like, why did I set that goal? Is that really something I need to do? Wow. But we all do it. I still do it. I set some ridiculous goals sometimes. At the start of this year, I set a goal that I wanted to speak X amount of times, make X amount of money. And it didn't take 2 months to realize, look, you're not going to get there. And so instead of beating myself up, I just said, all right, look, let's just wad that up and let's start over. I realize it's not January 1st anymore, but guess what? We can redo this any day of the year. It's fine. And New Year's resolutions are silly anyway, in my opinion. And so just start over. Now you've got a little bit of learning behind you, a little experience. So let's reevaluate. Let's do this again, and let's make it make sense. And so now it does.
When I set my goals, I set 3 goals per goal.
Yeah.
So I will set, what is my ideal goal? What is my big, hairy, audacious goal?
Right.
And then what is a goal that might be a little less than the perfect goal,
Right.
but I would still feel like I came close to hitting the target.
Yeah.
And so that way, if I hit any of those 3 goals,
Yeah.
you know, and I put my confidence level for hitting those goals, I still consider that a win.
I think if you're okay with that, that's great.
Yeah.
You know, as long as like I couldn't do that because my brain works weird. And if I didn't hit the big crazy goal, it didn't matter if I hit the it's okay kind of goal. I would be mad, disappointed, and probably beat myself up. And so I just have learned, for me, I've just got to set goals that are realistic. Like, and that doesn't mean that they're easy to reach.
Sure.
I try to keep them, you know,
Stretch goals.
Yeah, absolutely. But reasonable, you know, because I don't want to disappoint myself.
Yep.
I don't want to beat myself up, but I know I will. So I just have to keep them
So,
attainable.
and I think that's a really good point when you're setting goals is you've really got to know yourself. And so, as I mentioned earlier, my number one strength on the Strengths Finders is competition.
Yeah.
I want to win.
Absolutely.
So if that win looks like just a little bit less than what
Yeah.
it's still a win to me.
Yeah.
Because I still got there,
Yeah.
right? And typically that other goal, that okay goal, not your ideal goal, is really your ideal goal.
Yep.
And then the other 2 are the stretch goals.
And what's beautiful about that is you can do it that way. I can do it this way.
Yeah.
As long as people are doing it and have goals and are on a path to try to reach those
Yes.
goals, then great. You know, it's people that either don't set goals or set goals that are too easy to achieve
Yep.
or way too hard to ever achieve, and then they just give up, and then they've quit for the wrong reasons. You
Right.
know, like I'm all about quitting. But I always say, don't quit on your team and don't quit on your dream. Maybe you need to reevaluate your goals to get to your dream. Maybe you need to reevaluate. Maybe you need to change them. Maybe you need to end some of them and set on a new path to reach your dream. But don't quit.
Don't
quit that.
Don't quit that.
your dream.
I love
don't
that.
quit your dream.
You know, I heard somebody say the other day at a conference, and I think that, you know, I make it my mission to attend a certain number of conferences where I'm not speaking each year because I think learning is so important.
Huge.
And you just hear little things, and this has probably been said 100 times before, but it was the first time I heard it. And so, and it was like, it was really good because, and it was somebody that said, how do you get to 10? Well, you can 5 plus 5 equals 10.
Right.
6 plus 4 equals 10.
Right.
God, don't let me screw this up with math right now. You know, 8
Yeah.
plus 2 equals 10,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different ways to
there.
get to 10.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I think, and I've seen people do that, like, and I've seen people bark at me, and I've got all kinds of hate on social media, whatever, like, oh, you shouldn't tell people to quit, and you should, and I'm like, look, you're missing the point. You know, you got to get past the first 3 seconds of that or whatever you're listening to. I'm not telling people to quit their team. I'm not telling people to quit their dream. There's a lot of ways to get there. Just because it's not your way doesn't mean it's not
Absolutely.
okay.
So how does one know if they're living a meaningful life?
I think it's totally different for everybody, you know? And sometimes I think for me, it was age and experience was the factor because I didn't realize that I wasn't living a meaningful life. I thought it was great. I've got hundreds, if not thousands of people in my bars and clubs celebrating every night. I'm showing them a good time. Like my life must be meaningful, right? Look at all this great stuff I'm doing. And then you sit on the other side of the door one night, like I tell this story a lot, but I was sitting in my office, and on the other side of my door was probably 800 people having, I assume, a really good time. You know, they were there. They were spending money, having a good time. And I remember opening the door, and I looked, and all these people were smiling and dancing and having a great time. And I closed the door back, and I sat back down and realized I'm miserable. All these people are having a great time in my place, which is great. My bank account looks nice, all that. I'm miserable. I'm so unhappy. Everything in my life sucks. You know, that's how I felt. And so for me, it was, how am I going to find meaning in my life? And it was, you know, everybody talks about what's your why. And I'd always said my why was, it's my family. It's my family, because that's a great answer. And then I realized it is my family, but I'm not treating it like it's my why. I'm not acting on it. And so once I started doing that, once I figured out my why, I changed my goals, I changed my path, I changed everything really. I realized, oh my God, now I'm finally on a path to a meaningful life for me. And what's important to me is different for the next person. So it's a hard question to answer. And maybe an easy question as well, but I think it's different for everybody. What's meaningful for you? I know guys that meaningful for them means they can't quit working until they are worth $30 million. I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, but I get it because I used to say that kind of stuff. Now I got past it. They're still doing it, and I'm like, look, I don't need a house that big. I don't need that many cars. I don't need this. I don't need that. It's I've become pretty okay with the whole minimalist approach.
I was going through a phase with the minimalist approach there for a while, and I have gotten away from that. I was looking around my house the other day. I was like, I need to purge. It's purge time.
Yeah.
So
I do too. I do too. And I've tried it, and I it's clean out a drawer here or there.
Yep.
Whatever. It's a process for sure. But
I'm gonna work on it. Yeah. I did it like about 12 years ago. I sold my home, and I did an estate sale, and I sold I would not even look in boxes or anything. I had stuff up in my attic. I'd lived in that house for 11 years.
Yeah.
That I'd never touched in 11 years. Yes. I didn't even go through it. I was just like, take it.
Yep.
So.
And don't get me wrong. My wife, every year we get up in the attic, and she usually gets up there because it's got nails and I'm tall and it's stuff. And so she's like, hey, these same boxes are up here. Do you want them? Like every year, same conversation. I'm like, nope, leave them there. Yeah.
Sandboxes?
Just boxes of my stuff.
Like
stuff in them that she's like, yes, another year that you haven't touched or opened that box or looked in it. Like, do we have to keep it up here? Like, yeah, it's not bothering anybody.
That's funny.
I'm on the other drawer in the room.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's funny. You're not quitting that stuff.
Yeah.
No, gotcha. So what legacy do you hope to leave behind through your work as a motivational speaker?
Right. I hope that I can get people just to think a little bit. I hope that I can get them to not run into the same walls and the same doors that I did. I hope I can get them to realize that, again, so many things. It's not about the busyness. It's not about the money. It's not about it's about living a life that actually when you lay down to take your last breath, you can say I was proud. I was happy, and maybe not all of it, but you know what, when you take that last breath, you are. And that's really what I want, because I lived like everybody, I wish I could go back and do it all over. I would change so many things about my life. And people say, live life with no regrets. Well, guess what? I got regrets. I don't know. I think a lot of people do. But I just want people to realize that your life can be happy. It can be harmonious with your work, your life. Like I shouldn't say hate. I don't love work-life balance, because I think it's like, what is work-life balance? I don't even know what that means. Like, I preach work-life harmony because I think there's more to life than work-life balance, and I'm not really sure exactly how they weigh that and whatnot. And so I just think for my legacy, I'd like for my wife and my kids and my family and friends to go, you know what? He helped a lot of people. He did really good by himself. He did really good. He wasn't selfish. Took some years, but he wasn't selfish. He gave more than he took, and he really genuinely wanted to help people every single day of his life.
Well, that leads me to one of our VIP questions then. So if your life's work was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
Man, there's a really good question. Well, I got to figure out how to weave quitting into it. So let's see. The headline. It's just like man, that's a good question. I have thoughts dancing all around my head now. I think it would be something. Is this the end of my life?
It's just a news article.
Okay, news article. Lloyd Banks, the most successful quitter you ever met.
That's perfect. Yeah. How do people find you?
LloydSpeaks.com is my website. At Lloyd Quits on Instagram. I think it's Lloyd.
Quitter.
Yeah. Lloyd Speaks on YouTube and Instagram. What else? And LinkedIn. Those are my main.
Awesome.
Places.
Well, I know if our audience reaches out to you, you will be more than happy to talk to them about what it is you do, coaching if they need it, because I know I'm such a huge, I'm a proponent of coaching. I think it's critical in someone's career. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely. I want to tell you one more thing, if you don't mind. So I do one-to-one coaching, and some people are like, yeah, I either can't afford it, don't want to do it, whatever. I just finished my online course that's going to be out in the next couple of weeks. It's cheap. Everyone can afford it, and it really, I think, can help people genuinely. And it's one of the biggest reasons I did it. And people ask me, why aren't you charging more for this? And I said, because if I do, not as many people can take the course and hopefully get better. And so I made it the price it is because I want as many people as possible to take it and get better.
I love that. I am definitely going to check that out.
Please do.
Hook a girl up, man.
Yes, you got it.
So
deal.
Love this conversation. I love what you're sharing with the world. I think we all have our own, unique gift that we are here to give to help others accomplish their gifts, right? Yep. And I think that what you're sharing is so very important. So I just have one last thing to say to you.
Yes.
You are a VIP.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.